Modifying a modifier. Welcome to Raw, where we break down photography and cinematography based on the lighting setup, editing process, the theory, and then we critique them. So, you might be wondering what this is. This is going to be our example today for the video. Now, let me talk briefly about modifiers. In studio photography, there are a lot of different tools that photographers use for the strobe systems, the strobe lighting systems that we have. And what we use most are modifiers. In almost every case, a photographer has some sort of modifier, whether it be a softbox, whether it be an octabox with a grid, whether it be a strip box, beauty dish. These modifiers help us shape the light in a particular way we want the subject to look. Today, this is going to represent a small beauty dish. And the reason why I have gaffer's tape on it, I saw a photographer, do some DIY projects with things around, the studio to help you achieve certain looks without having expensive gear. Well, what he did was he placed over gaffer's tape. This is gaffer's tape. If you don't have this in your personal kit, whether you do studio photography or just natural light photography, you must have gaffer's tape. It is a must, and I highly recommend it. Any artist should have this tool. He used gaffer's tape to cover up a small beauty dish. And essentially, this is going to help narrow and focus the light to where he needs it. Try to imagine having a bulb here, right here in the center. This slit is going to allow a very narrow field of focus for the light to pass through. Because with a beauty dish is typically silver inside, as you can see here. Silver inside where the light bounces around, right? And it produces a hard, contrasty light. Well, this helps focus that light. And so it creates a narrow path where the light comes through and a very quick fall off of the shadow. I really like that look when I started experimenting with it. And today we're gonna actually talk about that in the actual photo that we're gonna be critiquing. All right, so let's talk about the process. How do we get to the final image? And the final image is this guy right here. This is the final image. So let's go up here. Let me filter this because I went ahead and did this. Now I'm gonna leave this up here. As you can see, this is me. Wow, I think over a year ago. Yep, about a year ago. I was my own test subject for the light. So in the beginning, I was just using a small beauty dish, open, and I had a second light, as you can see behind here, which gave the little spotlight. Oh boy, look at that hair. Anyway, yeah, so this was a 2-light setup. The beauty dish, small beauty dish, directly over. Let me see if I can have an example here. Here, look, you can see the catch light in my eye. If this loads any slower, you can see the catch light in my eye of the beauty dish, and then the background light to have a spotlight to give it a nice gradient or so. And so here is my model Nathan. It always starts. See, when I shoot, it always starts out with a beginning, just like let's relax, let's take some shots, let's get to know each other, let's talk a bit. Because I had the time. Most of the time, photographers don't only have like 20 minutes of a model to get in and get out. Me, on the other hand, I had some leisure time. I was in college, so I was just getting to know people. And I already knew Nathan. We had some background with gymnastics and things like that. So we progressed. Actually, I kind of like some of these shots. I need to use some of these. So as we progress, I'm moving towards the next setup. And as you can see up here, the bottom of the beauty dish here, it looks pretty large, but it was actually the small beauty dish. And as you see, I had the light directly on him. I still had the backlight on too. I had the light directly on him, and look how quickly this shadow is showing now compared to having it open. Now I have some direction with this light, and that fall off is fast. Light, dark, light, dark. And so as we progress, I turn off the backlight because I didn't like that combination. It didn't give the same effect. It didn't get moody, and I wanted to come, a little bit more serious because Nathan has a very strong jaw, and I want to, accentuate that to look very, manly and everything, very tough and in a way suave because he has that look, the scruff on his beard and everything. So as you progress, as you can see, I turn off that backlight, and this beam of light here is the fall of light from the actual slit that I made on that beauty dish. Let's run over here to Photoshop so I can show you what the diagram. Yes, another beautiful art piece by me. The diagram of what it looked like. So I had two V flats. I had two black V flats, and it was close enough where the light won't bounce around. So as the light hit the subject, there's nothing that bounced into the light. It just got absorbed by the black V flat, and that's what I wanted, and it helped accentuate those shadows even more. And it kind of did the same thing with the background. It allowed the light to stay in one beam so it could create some type of interesting pattern on the background. And as you can see here, I have two you can see where the V flats were in, so they were pretty close. And you always make micro adjustments. It's not gonna be right the first shot, and you keep going through. So my camera settings, let's just go to I think I kept it all the same, but here, let's look at this. So my camera settings here, I was at a 50th of a second, at 5.6, at 200 ISO with a 50mm lens. The lighting settings, based on my camera settings, I'm guessing I'm at 1/4 to 1/8. That's what I'm guessing where my power outage is. So if my camera's at f5.6, then my power outage for the light here probably around 1/4 power or 1/8. But ooh, that's ugly. Erase. But I'm guessing it's probably around 1/8 because I'm not blowing out any highlights here. So as you can see, I did quite a bit. And just like I said in the last video, how I bring this in as a smart object, and then I make a black and white copy to add that contrast. And as you can see, this is a nice build up of where I want to lead. Then I go to a quick cleanup. So any bumps, blemishes, let's zoom in here, bumps or blemishes that are distracting or too pleasant, I clean that up. Now I'm not the best retoucher. I just know how to make it look like it's natural enough, because I don't want to get rid of everything on the facial feature. Because look, here's a stylistic choice. I've decided to leave this scar that he had because it's part of him. He has a story with this, so I left that scar because if I would have removed it, I don't think it would be as edgy. Now here, this is a sharpening. So I sharpened the hair a bit. I sharpened his beard, as you can see, and he gets a little pop. I gave a little bit of sharpness in his eyes, I believe. And this is just a high pass with a mask, as you can see here, high pass with a mask. Now the toning, oops. Let's move on to the toning here. Now I went through several processes. I remember this. I went through several different processes, or however you want to say it, to achieve the look I wanted. So I first, let's bring in this contrast layer. What did we do here in the contrast layer? Okay, so I gave it a slight curve. As you can see, this is off, this is on, this is off, to build up the contrast a bit more. Then I did the mixing. Now I believe I removed some of the redness in his face. So let's take a guess. Yeah, I made it a little bit more pale. I didn't do too accurately. I can see it's more overall. So I would actually bring in, if I went to my adjustment layer here and I went down to hue and saturation, there's so many different ways to do this. And I'll pick my color slider and I'll pick like a red spot, and I would have brought that down a little bit. But see that takes out the color in his face. It takes out life. There's other ways to target that. So that's one way of doing it. But let's go up. So that's the first toning I did. See the eyes. I came in here and brightened the eyes a bit, because I remember my teacher said they were too dark when I printed them. Here, let's see what we have. Now this is a dodge and burn. This technique. Okay, so this is just a neutral gray layer. So the neutral gray layer looks like this. Neutral gray layer. Then what you do, you go here to your blending mode, go to soft light, and it won't be visible to anything. Then you take your dodge and burn brushes. So you have your dodge tool, which is your highlights that it will affect, and then your burn tool, which is your shadows it will affect. And what I did, I came in here, let me turn this layer off. I came in here, you can change your exposure. So let me make sure, okay, burn is on, highlights, range, let's go to the shadows. We don't want to go high, we want to have a nice slow build up. And so I went in here, just kind of just scoped his face a bit more. Now if you hear a lot of clicking, I'm using my mouse right now. I apologize if it gets a little bit annoying, but it's subtle. It's subtle, but you always want to go subtle, because if you do anything really extreme, if we let this on 30%, it would have been too much too fast. In my opinion, I can see it shows results, but see, every time you click, it builds up. You see this mistake I just made? Yeah, we don't want that. We want to have more control. Photoshop is all about control. That's why you have layers. That's why you have adjustment layers. That's why you have masks. You have the power to sculpt anything you want in this software. That's why it's such a powerful software. Let me just leave that and let's go to your dodge tool. And so let's just do the highlights. So let's say so let's say here, we want to brighten this a bit, And that's all you do. That's how, you contour the face to give more shape and more sculpture. But I like the way I did it the first time. So let's go back to that. And see, here's another stylistic choice. I didn't mind if this area went black. I didn't mind that at all. I like this. It's just so moody. I like it. Now, I probably should darken his ear right here. I should have done that. If I would have caught that. It's a little distracting. It's a little distracting on the side. But let's continue on. What is this layer? Oh, look at that. I did darken his ear. I know myself very well. So I did go on to another toning because I didn't like this first toning. It's a bit gray, wouldn't you say? It's a bit gray. It looks nice, but it's a bit gray. And here is, whew. All right, let's break this down, Joshua. What did you bring in? I wonder if this is a stamp layer. Well, guys, this is the first. I actually don't know what I did here, because it seems like it seems like a stamp layer or some sort, but I brought some yellowish tones into his flesh. As you can see, there is a difference. So no tone. I brought in some yellowish tones. I brought in some sharpening, but I don't know where that came from. Let's figure this out. And then I brought some green in the last bit of. Okay, I pulled down the blues. And I pulled down the greens here a little bit. But let's turn off this layer. And let's focus on this layer. Let's see if we can dissect this process. So let's go here. Man, that's so interesting. Actually, that's a mistake there, because as you can see, I don't know, I can see it, but there's this tone difference. There's magenta here and there's green here. So if we turn that off, that's actually what I want. So I got kind of sloppy. Yeah, I over sharpened my hair here, and I got a little sloppy trying to bring it back. So honestly, I could just leave this mask off. That's fine, I'll leave that off. And then this tone. And this tone. So okay, here's what I did, guys. Here's the breakdown. I introduced some yellow into his skin. So I'm guessing what this looks like is I brought in, I can't believe it's not here, but I brought in, let's go to our curves. Where's curves? Curves. So here's what you can do with curves, right? Let's turn off this layer and let's try to match this. So I will encourage you to play with your sliders when it comes to color. Sliders as in your curves, because there's hundreds of ways to color an image. I learned how to do it based on your curves, the RGB separating your greens, blues, and reds. And so as you can see, if you subtract something, it's going to add something. So if you subtract green, it's going to add magenta. If you subtract blue, it's going to add yellow. And if you subtract red, it's going to add, your green. So based on this layer here, I subtracted a bit of blue because there's more yellow in his skin. And I see that this represents that. That's what it looks like. But the way it's ordered right now is quite weird. So let's go to blue. Let's bring down, as you can see how the skin's turning a little bit yellow. Now this is an overall adjustment. It's an overall adjustment, but I brought down that blue a bit, and let's bring down a little bit of green. Okay. Let's see, let's introduce a tad bit of green in the shadows. And then let's add a tad bit of blue. So let's bring this back down a little bit. We probably won't get as perfect as the original, but it's pretty darn close. Pretty darn close. I see there's a little bit more yellow in his skin. Well guys, I got as close as I could. I could get even closer, but to not prolong this video, let's critique this image. I do like the mood, the toning, the grit that this photo has. A couple of things I would change. One, perhaps his wardrobe. In the future, I will be more conscious of what my model should wear. Two, I want to have more of a catch light here in his eyes to make his eyes a little bit more visible, more lifelike, to see that mood, right? So I would honestly I could have tilted that light a few inches, an inch or two down, and boom, that catch light would have been his eyes, and you can be more drawn to his eyes. I think that's what I can say right now. I like what I did with the toning, the mood. I could have gone a little bit more blue. I personally like a little bit more blue tones now than green. Playing with those two tones would be nice. So yeah, please tell me what you think of this video, what you think of the image, some improvements. What have you learned from this video, if anything? But I think some takeaways that would be important to know. One, coloring based on with your curves, and that's one thing I think you should try to implement moving forward in your own photos. Like try to understand how to tone in different ways. You can tone through hue and saturation. You can tone in curves. You can tone in levels. Like there's so many different ways you can tone. Color balance you can tone. So explore those things. And yeah, if anything too, get into a studio. Connect with a photographer. See if you can rent out a studio space. Get in there if you're curious. I just encourage you to get out there and put yourself out there and create some work, some studio work. So thank you for your time. Thank you for listening. Please subscribe. I would love to know your thoughts. Comment, like, and stay tuned for the next one. All right, peace.